Ding dong, you're dead. Welcome to Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's talk about House. Got my shirt on, I'm ready to go. Uh, this franchise was selected by Nate Malice, my patron, who joined at the Team Myers level. I said Voorhees last time. Myers level, so he got to choose my next franchise. Gave him a lengthy list to choose from, and he chose House. This has 4 entries that I know of. I'm pretty sure it's just 4. And part 3 is called The Horror Show, and not House 3. There's some copies out there that say House 3. I think that was like the foreign market or some shit. Confusing, right? Yeah. But yeah, there's 4 of these babies. Let's talk about the original, which came out in 1985, or in some cases 6. I think it had a small release in 85, and then an official release in 86. But we'll say 85. Fuck it. So this is a movie that I did grow up on, so I got some nostalgia for this film. I always remember the the purple dress monster and her like high pitched squeal and like laugh, and that always scared me as a kid. So that's the one thing I always remember about this movie. Going into it this time, I've only seen it a few times as a kid. Going into it this time as an adult, it didn't hold up as well. I still like it. I don't hate this movie. It just didn't hold up as well. Just like when I watched Wrong Turn recently, I loved that movie growing up, but it just didn't hold up as well. Same thing here. I'm surprised this is rated R. I'm really surprised. Like, this movie feels like it would be PG-13. And this was 85, 86, so that's when PG-13 was just becoming a thing. Like, Temple of Doom and other movies, like Red Dawn, I think that was the first one, right? This feels like it should have been PG-13 because there's like hardly any swearing in the movie. You know, you got Big Ben who keeps yelling "sucker," "I'm gonna kill you, sucker!" Like he could have been dropping the F bomb there. But yeah, this movie just feels very PG to me, and that could make or break the movie for you. It didn't break the movie for me, but would I have appreciated it to be a little bit more R and a little bit more horrific? Yes, but I still enjoyed it overall. It was just not as good as I remembered. Plot synopsis, in case you don't know what it's about a guy whose aunt dies, so he goes to her house and he's debating on whether or not he wants to sell it, but he's like, fuck it, I'm not gonna sell it. I'm just gonna live here and write my new book about my experience in the Vietnam War. And his son recently went missing, and so he's got that on his mind, and a rocky relationship with his wife or ex-wife. Are they together? I can't remember now. But yeah, so he's just down on his luck. He's trying to write a book. He's in this house that his aunt said was haunted before she hung herself. And he quickly realizes that yes, this house is haunted. There's portals in it. You open doorways to different like dimensions, and there's monsters coming out of closets and attacking him. It's just a crazy movie. I read that it was going to be like a Twilight Zone movie, like, or it was inspired by the Twilight Zone movie in '83. And this was written by Fred Dekker, but it was rewritten after it was written. It was supposed to be a little bit more serious, a lot more horror centric, but then it got rewrote by Ethan Wiley, and he added all the humor in it, which is basically the second half of this movie. And then he would go on to write and direct part 2 from the back of this, I would say. Yep, he went on to write and direct part 2, which is why that one's just pure comedy from beginning to end. And there's a lot of Friday the 13th connections to this film. So this movie is directed by Steve Miner, who directed part 2 and 3. This movie has Kane Hodder doing stunts in it. This movie has 3 actors from the Friday the 13th franchise. You got the cop from part 1. You got Creighton Duke from Jason Goes to Hell. And then you got even Harold. I saw him listed. I don't remember seeing him, but supposedly Harold from Friday the 13th part 3, 3D. He's in this movie as well. And then you got Harry Manfredini doing the score. So it's like, and then wait, one more. One more. You got Sean Cunningham as the producer. This is a Sean Cunningham production. So yeah, just all kinds of connections to the franchise. And yeah, and then you got Mac Alberg doing the cinematography, and he does all kinds of horror movies. I've been seeing his name a lot lately. But enough rambling. Let's get into my positives. All right. First up, I think the house is iconic and awesome. Like, this is the perfect location. Like, you couldn't choose a better house. Like, they found this house somewhere in California, and I think it's still standing to this day. Boy, do I want to go visit it because it looks beautiful and creepy at the same time. So, perfect location. And I really like the concept overall, the whole open up doors to like their portals, and the house knows your fears and uses your fears against you and shit like that. That's been done before, but I like it here. Really like the cast in the movie too. I like William Katt. I think he has a good performance. He's a good lead. I like his character, and I like the nosy neighbor played by George Wendt. I think he's a good, uh, side character in the film. He's not in it a whole lot, but when he's on screen, I'm always smiling because he's just a great presence in the film, and I just love them together. Roger and Harold, like their first interaction together is hilarious. Just that whole scene, and I like the monster designs in the movie. I read that they were put together very quickly, I think, and some people might look at it as very dated or rubbery or whatever, but I thought they looked pretty cool, and they gave me the creeps growing up. The monster in the purple dress, the long, sharp nails, and her laugh, terrifying as a kid. But yeah, I like the monster designs. You got Big Ben in the third act. I thought that was kind of similar to Jason in part 7, the New Blood. Like he's got the whole like bones exposed and just the worn out clothing just shredded and everything. Like I just love the look of Big Ben. I also like the score by Harry Manfredini in the movie. It's very reminiscent of Friday the 13th at times, but it also changes throughout. It starts to sound more military, and then it just keeps changing throughout. It's never like a consistent theme playing throughout the movie. It keeps changing and updating. As for like things I didn't really care for as much, it would be the tonal shift. I just think was a mistake. Like they should have kept it more consistent. The first half of this movie feels way serious, and then in the second half, it just kind of comes out of nowhere how silly it gets. So I feel like that was a mistake. They should have chose one or the other. And if I remember correctly, House 4 does the same thing, where the first half feels like a drama, and then all of a sudden it's like extremely silly with like a pizza monster or some shit, and like a little guy running like a nuclear power plant or some shit. It just goes bonkers, House 4 in the second half. And it's kind of like that in this one. So it's like a mistake if you ask me. You should always like set the tone in the first act. Like let the audience know what they're up for. In this one, it doesn't know what it wants to be, and that's because of the rewrites. So it's a little negative. It doesn't hurt the film that much for me. And it's a little boring at times. I felt myself kind of coming out of it in the first half when it was serious. I love that this movie in the second half got more silly, and I think that was the right decision. They should have did that in the first half also, but in the first half I was kind of coming out of it in a few moments. It was kind of a little slow, so that was a bit of a problem I had with the movie. And there's a lot of Vietnam War flashbacks where it clearly looks like it's not Vietnam where they're at, like it looks like a set, but I just feel like they show that way too much. Like they just keep cutting back to the Vietnam stuff like 4 times, and each time they stay there a little too long. And I feel like I already said it before, but this movie is just a little too PG for me. Like personally, I feel like this should have been a little bit more heavy with the horror. Just have more attacks in the film, have just something in here to make it a little bit more exciting for the adults. It just feels a little too kid friendly at times, that I just was not enjoying it as much as I wanted to. I still enjoyed the movie, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. But also, I'm not a fan of the way evil is defeated in this movie. It's the typical, spoiler. I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but it's 35 plus years old, right? So it's the typical like Nightmare on Elm Street Pennywise defeat. Like, I'm not afraid of you no more, monster. I'm gonna turn my back on you. Fuck you, monster. I'm leaving. And then like the monster's like, no, you're not afraid of me no more. And then that's it. Like we've seen that a million times, and it's just annoying. All right, it was just another thing I didn't like. I wish there could have been like a better, more grandiose final confrontation with Big Ben, like the way he defeats him. Oh, I'm not afraid of you no more. Screw you. I'm walking out of here. Like, oh, that's what we're doing. So, just not a fan of that. But final thoughts, I still enjoyed the movie. I have some nostalgia for it, but I'm not gonna lie and act like it's a masterpiece just because I saw it a few times as a kid. It does have some problems. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely a cult classic that's worth checking out. So when it comes to House, if you still haven't seen it for some reason, definitely consider giving it a watch, stream it, or rent it at Redbox. Time for a spoiler discussion. Let's spoil the movie even more. So, I think I already said it earlier. This movie opens up with the aunt hanging herself. The guy comes in, and we just see her swaying back and forth. She hung herself, and then later on, she says that the house tricked her into hanging herself, which is kind of fucked up. And another thing that's kind of fucked up is when they're at the funeral, this guy is talking to William Katt, Roger, and he's calling his wife crazy while she's mourning over the death of the wife, or the aunt, sorry. She's like crying, and he's like making fun of his wife right next to him, who's crying at the funeral. What a dick. And I like that he just puts a TV dinner in a microwave for like 30 minutes. Did I read that wrong? It looked like he pushed in like 30 minutes for a TV dinner. That's a little too long. We get a very similar dream sequence here to Carrie, where a hand comes out of the ground near a grave, and it's a dream sequence, just like in Carrie, and we got William Katt in the movie. I think that was done on purpose. And then we see a Craven Realty sign, a nod to Wes Craven, who Sean Cunningham worked with on The Last House on the Left. And the realtor in this movie, he was originally going to be Dennis Franz, I read. That would have been pretty cool. But the realtor grabs a harpoon gun and almost shoots Roger, and Roger is not even upset that he almost got killed. And was that the same harpoon from Friday the 13th Part 3? Maybe it was. And so, yeah, and then he's seeing like apparitions, he's seeing ghosts, he's seeing his wife, not his wife, his aunt hanging herself, and he sees like his son in the window. And then he sleeps in his son's bedroom, and it immediately made me think of Hereditary, where Annie is sleeping in Charlie's bedroom after she dies. So I guess that's just what parents do when they lose their kids. They like to sleep in their bedrooms to mourn. And how long has Jimmy, his son, I think it was Jimmy, right? How long has his son been missing? Because he finds him at the end of this movie. I know I'm jumping ahead, but I want to get to it. He finds his son at the end of the movie, and he's like a POW in this alternate dimension. How long has he been there? How long has he been missing? I don't know. It feels like a long time has went by since his son went missing. How is he still alive? as a POW in an alternate dimension. That just doesn't seem to make sense. And so I guess Big Ben is feeding him, and I don't know. And he has the deepest V I've ever seen on a shirt. It's like a sweatshirt, but the V goes all the way down to like his belly button. It's fucking ridiculous. And then we get introduced to George Wendt, and this exchange between him and Roger is pretty funny. He's like, "Oh, you knew you in here? Thank God. That old person that was living here before, that old bitch, she was crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if like one of her kids killed her because she was just nuts, a real nutcase." And then he's like, "That was my aunt." And he's like, "Heart of gold, though. Heart of gold." Then we get the first attack in the movie where, the monster comes out of the closet and it almost kind of looks like, Evil Dead 2 thing, or the monster in Hellraiser going down the hallway. Just one of those things. And it attacks him, but it apparently scratched his chest. Like, he reveals himself later, the damage that was done. It's like these giant claw marks. I didn't see any contact. Maybe I blinked real hard and I missed it, but I didn't see him actually get scratched. That's like the only blood that would have been in the movie if he did get scratched. I didn't see it. But anyways, so yeah, he gets attacked, and then like this is when the movie officially switches gears. It becomes more silly. Like, he puts on his uniform, the military music's playing, and he just goes like knee sliding outside the house, like screaming in front of the neighbors. It's like, where did this come from? Like, up until that point, it was very serious. And then Harold somehow, like the next time Roger goes upstairs, he runs up there, and then not even a few seconds later, Harold is scaring him with like a 6-pack of beer. Like, he just ran up, like he would have heard him running up the stairs right before that. Watch that scene again and tell me it makes sense. There's no way he did not hear that heavy-set guy running up the stairs. He would have had to run to make it that quick. But anyways, nitpick. So then the Swordfish, very Evil Dead 2, very silly. And I like that he just shoots it. It's like, it's not going anywhere. Why shoot it? And even when he shoots it, it's not really dead. It was never alive in the first place. And then, so I love that Harold calls his wife, somehow has her number, somehow knows her name. Like, I thought they were divorced. Maybe she would have a different name. I don't know. But he finds out her number, calls her, says, "Hey, I'm a friend of your husband who I just met today." And she's like, "Oh, here, let me give you my daytime number. You can call me anytime, stranger." It's like she believed him, and it was just nuts. And then the scene where he goes out to the tool shed and then comes back inside and gets attacked by the lady in the purple dress and shit. It goes from nighttime to daytime very quickly. I was confused. What's going on there? Is it like continuity errors with the film? Or is there an explanation behind that? Watch that scene again. When he goes out and he gets tools or something, he goes out in the shed, and then it's clearly nighttime. We see an outside shot. It's nighttime. And then he goes back inside, and then he gets attacked by the purple dress monster, and he shoots the monster outside, and it's daytime, like middle of the day. Or maybe it's morning because then George Wendt wakes up. But still, it's like how much time went by between that 2 minute frame? Like, it made no sense how it quickly went from night to day. It was just weird. These two cop cars, like 4 cops, show up to the scene because a suicide was called in. Why would they send that many cops? One quick silly thing I want to point out here is the scene where he shoots the monster, it turns into his wife, and he thinks he killed her. He picks her up, and she weighs like his wife would weigh instead of the monster. The wife turns right back into the monster a few minutes later. So even though in his eyes he's picking up his wife, in reality it's the monster who would weigh like 400 pounds. So when he picks her up, it should be very heavy, you know? A little thing I never noticed before was a picture on the wall that had like a naked woman with all kinds of like garden tools surrounding her, attacking her, which is exactly what happens in the movie. All the garden tools alive, chasing Roger around and accidentally killing the purple monster. And Kane Hodder was supposedly the stunt person in that scene when Roger's like hitting the corpse on the ground, and he complained that he got hurt in that scene. And so this neighbor is just using his pool without permission, but she like gives the excuse like, "Oh, I used to do it all the time when your aunt lived here." It's like, that doesn't mean you get to do it now. And I love how she forces her son onto him, like she tricks him into thinking that she's gonna like go out with him, but instead she shows up later on with her son, who's actually Steve Miner's son, and is like, "Oh, here you go, like he's yours. I'm going on a date. Bye bye." Like, what a bitch. Just forces her son, and of course like the son has like the severed hand on him, and the son gets like taken up the chimney by these two like troll monsters, like these monsters that are terrifying, their faces. And that was always scary to me as a kid, but not to this kid in the movie. He's smiling the entire time. That kid would have been shitting his pants. Those faces are terrifying. Oh, and it wasn't even 12 yet. So what's with the clock thing? This review is going to be fucking an hour long, but I got so much shit written down, but I have so many questions. Like, it seems like they're establishing that it has to be midnight before these monsters come out of the doors and shit and attack you, but when those monsters attack the kid he's babysitting, it like strikes midnight a few minutes after that, and he gets George Wendt to go upstairs and he has all the cameras set up. It wasn't even midnight yet. Like, what's the rules? I feel like this movie missed an opportunity to explain some things a little bit more. Like, let's set the groundwork. Let's set the rules. Like, Gremlins. Like it's only after midnight. Something like that. Those monsters were attacking before, not after midnight. All right, they were ahead of schedule. Then Roger, he finds the portal. He's going down this road. We get like Evil Dead 2, Deadite, or Army of Darkness, like Deadite bats flying around and shit. It's kind of aged, looks, like stop motion or something. It doesn't look all that great, but it's way better than CGI. And he finds his son, and I guess there's a portal in the pool too. I thought it was the house. Now it's the pool. I guess there's portals everywhere. That doesn't make sense either, but it's just a movie. You don't want to think about it too hard, but I was thinking about it while watching it. I was like, wait, so the doorways are portals, but now also, I guess, the chimney, because why else would they drag the kid up there? And the pool also? Like, how many portals are around this house? It ain't the house that's haunted, it's the whole freaking area that's haunted. So we find out Big Ben wants revenge because he blames Roger for him getting captured and becoming a POW, what's pod? A POW, and he wants him to kill himself or he'll kill his son. He thinks he killed him, he pushes him off a cliff, he falls to his death, but then he comes right back, and then this is when Roger's like, oh, I think I know how to defeat you. I'll just say I'm not scared of you anymore, tough guy. I'm not scared. And then just takes his son, walks out. In the end, the wife pops up. Finally, she gets to the house. Impeccable timing. She's there once it's all said and done. And there's like no questions asked. Like, where did you find him? Oh my God, are you okay, sweetie? Like, how are you still alive after so many weeks of being missing? And that's the end of the movie. So, Hockey Mask Award for Best Character in this movie will be Harold the Nosy Neighbor, played by George Wendt. He is just so funny. The Hinky Award for Worst Character in this movie is that hot neighbor forcing Roger to babysit her kid. That is not how you get someone to babysit. That is a bitch move. And the Clap Award for Best Scene in this movie is the attack by Big Ben on Roger, him chasing him through the house. All that stuff was pretty exciting. I like the look of Big Ben. And the Funny Bone Award for Funniest Moment in this movie will be...
Woman lived here before you was nuts. Biggest bitch under the sun. Just a senile old hag, really. Wouldn't be surprised if someone just got fed up and offed her, you know what I mean?
She was my aunt.
Heart of gold, though.
And the best shot in this movie, I haven't done one of these awards in a while, but I really like the shot of Roger hanging off the cliff. He's inside his house still, but he's like on a cliff. I like the look of that scene, that shot. It was pretty cool. So those are my thoughts on House. What did you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.